Your future is being shaped right now in the quiet hours when no one is watching. While the world obsesses over morning routines, I'm here to reveal a profound truth. It's your evenings that ultimately determine your destiny. The hours between work and sleep represent the most powerful opportunity for transformation that most people completely waste. I once met a young professional who complained they couldn't get ahead in life. They had dreams, ambitions, goals written down, but year after year, nothing changed. When I asked about their typical evening, they described coming home exhausted, watching television for hours, scrolling through social media, and then falling asleep, wondering where the time went. 5 years later, after completely transforming their evening routine, this same person had written 2 books, started a successful business, and doubled their income. The difference wasn't morning productivity or luck. It was a revolution in how they spent those critical evening hours. The decisions you make between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. will predict where you'll be 5 years from now with astounding accuracy. Your evening routine is the clearest indicator of who you're becoming. Most people spend their days serving someone else's vision, but your evenings, those belong entirely to you. What you do with that freedom reveals everything about your future. Tonight, I'm going to show you why your evening habits are silently determining your destiny, how to reclaim those hours for extraordinary achievement, and the specific strategies that separate the exceptional from the ordinary. The transformation won't be easy, but I promise you this: change your evenings and you will change your life. There's a fascinating pattern I've observed studying successful individuals across every field. They guard their evening hours with extraordinary vigilance. While average people collapse into entertainment and distraction after work, exceptional achievers use these hours differently. They understand something most don't. Evenings contain your most valuable discretionary time. Consider this. During working hours, your energy and attention belong largely to your employer. Morning hours, while powerful, are limited and often consumed by preparation for the workday. But evenings, these represent the largest block of free time most adults control entirely. They are the hours where your true priorities can finally take center stage. What makes evening time uniquely powerful is the principle of compound interest. Let me explain this clearly. 1 hour invested each evening in deliberate skill development or personal growth compounds dramatically over time. 1 hour per evening becomes 365 hours per year. That's 9 full 40-hour work weeks of additional investment in yourself. Imagine what happens when you invest those hours in learning, creating, or building, while others are passively consuming content that will be forgotten by morning. Research from performance psychologists reveals something remarkable. Expertise isn't primarily built during working hours. The differentiating factor between average performers and world-class achievers is what they do with their discretionary time. A study of elite performers found they dedicated 70% more evening hours to deliberate practice and strategic thinking than their peers of equal talent but less achievement. Evening hours also offer unique cognitive advantages. Your subconscious mind is most receptive to new programming in the hours before sleep. Information reviewed during this period receives preferential encoding in long-term memory. This is why reading meaningful content before bed is exponentially more valuable than watching random videos. You're literally programming tomorrow's thinking while the world sleeps. The most successful entrepreneurs I've counseled don't just work longer hours. They work smarter evening hours. They use this time to reflect on the day's lessons, study their industry, plan strategic moves, and prepare their minds for the challenges ahead. While their competition relaxes into mindlessness, they engage in mindfulness that separates them from the pack. Your evenings are not just hours on a clock. They represent the most significant opportunity for self-corrected growth available to you. They are the hidden resource most people squander without even recognizing its value. The question isn't whether you have enough time to achieve your dreams. It's whether you're using the evening hours you already have. Let me share a sobering statistic. The average adult now spends 3.5 hours each evening watching television and another 2.5 hours on social media and internet browsing. That's 6 hours, the equivalent of a full-time job, dedicated to activities that produce absolutely nothing of lasting value. This represents the greatest theft of human potential in modern history. What makes this crisis particularly devastating is that it happens with our full consent. Nobody forces us to surrender our most valuable hours to entertainment algorithms designed to capture and hold our attention. We willingly trade the opportunity for growth and achievement for temporary pleasure that leaves nothing behind. Consider the true cost of these decisions. When you spend 3 hours watching shows you barely remember next week, you're not just losing 3 hours, you're losing the compounded value of what those hours could have created over years and decades. You're sacrificing relationships that could have been deepened, skills that could have been mastered, businesses that could have been built, and wisdom that could have been gained. I've walked through neighborhoods in the evening and observed the blue glow of television screens in nearly every window. Inside those homes are people with dreams, goals, and aspirations sitting motionless while their potential slips away one evening at a time. They complain about not having enough time to pursue their passions while giving away the very hours that could transform their circumstances. Society has normalized this collective waste. We've created a culture where exhaustion is the expected state after work and mindless consumption is the accepted response. I just need to unwind has become the mantra that justifies the sacrifice of our most precious resource. But this normalization doesn't make it any less destructive. The painful irony is that these passive activities don't even deliver the rejuvenation they promise. Research consistently shows that active leisure, reading, creating, learning, deep conversation, produces significantly greater recovery and satisfaction than passive entertainment. People who engage in purposeful evening activities report 60% higher life satisfaction and 40% lower feelings of time scarcity than those who default to screens. We must confront this crisis with clear eyes. Your evening routine isn't a minor lifestyle choice. It's the primary determinant of your personal evolution. Each night, you're voting for the person you become through the activities you choose. The question isn't whether you deserve to relax. Of course you do. The question is whether passive consumption is actually restoring you or slowly diminishing your capacity for a meaningful life. The fundamental difference between those who maximize their evenings and those who waste them is surprisingly simple: vision. Those who use these hours productively possess a clear picture of their desired future that's powerful enough to overcome the gravity of immediate comfort. Your evening routine is the most honest reflection of your true priorities, not the priorities you talk about, but those you actually live by. If you claim financial independence is important, but spend every evening on activities that generate no value, there's a profound disconnect between your stated goals and your daily choices. Your evening routine never lies about what matters most to you. Let me ask you to do something right now. Mentally trace your typical evening from the moment work ends until you fall asleep. Note each activity and the approximate time spent. Now ask yourself, if someone with no other information about you observed only these hours, what would they conclude about your priorities, aspirations, and likelihood of achieving significant goals? Would they see someone actively building their desired future or someone merely passing time? This exercise often creates uncomfortable realizations. Many discover their evenings bear no relationship to their most cherished goals. Others realize they've never actually decided what to do with these hours. They simply react to whatever grabs their attention first. This unconscious approach guarantees mediocre results. Living with purpose means bringing intentionality to every segment of your day, especially those hours you fully control. Purpose-driven evenings don't happen by accident. They require designing your environment and routine to align with your deepest values. This might mean placing your most important project materials on the kitchen table before leaving for work, so they are the first thing you see upon returning home. It might mean deleting social media apps from your phone during weeknights or scheduling specific activities that move you toward your goals. The connection between evening discipline and living purposefully cannot be overstated. Those who achieve remarkable things understand that purpose isn't something you find, it's something you build, one evening at a time. They recognize that inspiration doesn't create discipline. Discipline creates inspiration. By consistently dedicating evening hours to meaningful pursuits, motivation naturally follows. Your evening routine should be a direct expression of who you're becoming, not merely a reaction to who you've been all day. This requires asking fundamental questions. What kind of person do I want to be? What contribution do I want to make? What skills must I develop? Then design your evenings as a deliberate pathway to that future self. Transforming your evenings begins with structure. The most effective evening routines follow a predictable pattern that transitions you from work mode to growth mode, not simply from work mode to entertainment mode. Let me outline the ideal structure that has helped thousands create extraordinary results. First, create a clear boundary between work and your personal evening. This might be changing clothes, a brief meditation, or a short walk. This transition ritual signals to your brain that one mode has ended and another has begun. Without this boundary, work stress often bleeds into evening hours, making focused activities difficult. Next, fuel your body intelligently. The foods you consume in the evening dramatically impact your energy and cognitive function. Heavy meals redirect blood flow to digestion rather than to your brain. Light, nutrient-dense options sustain evening energy without disrupting sleep. Proper hydration is equally crucial. Most people perform evening activities in a slightly dehydrated state, reducing mental clarity by up to 30%. Now structure your evening into 3 distinct blocks. The first block, approximately 60-90 minutes, should be your highest leverage activity, the one that most directly advances your primary goal. This might be developing a business plan, learning a valuable skill, writing or creating. Place this first because willpower naturally diminishes throughout the evening. For parents, this block might begin after children's bedtime. The second block, approximately 60 minutes, should focus on preparation and planning. Review tomorrow's schedule, prepare meals, lay out clothes, organize your workspace, and set priorities. This eliminates friction from your mornings and ensures you begin tomorrow with momentum. Strategic planning for the next day takes only minutes but can double your effectiveness. The third block, 30-60 minutes before sleep, should center on input that programs your subconscious. This is when reading challenging books, journaling about key lessons from the day, or engaging in thoughtful conversation is most valuable. Your mind continues processing this information during sleep, connecting ideas and generating insights even while you rest. The specific activities within this framework should align with your goals, but certain practices deliver exceptional returns regardless of your situation. Reading substantive books is perhaps the highest leverage evening activity possible. The average CEO reads 60 books annually, while the average person reads fewer than 4. Reading just 30 minutes each evening exposes you to ideas, strategies, and perspectives that can transform your thinking and opportunities. Reflection through journaling forces clarity and accelerates learning. Spending even 10 minutes documenting lessons, insights, and questions from your day compounds into extraordinary wisdom over time. This practice alone has created some of the greatest thinkers and achievers throughout history. Skill development practiced consistently in evening hours, whether learning a language, mastering a technical ability, or developing emotional intelligence, creates expertise that becomes invaluable career currency. Focused learning for just 45 minutes daily places you in the top 1% of skill acquisition within your field in less than 3 years. Planning the following day with specific time blocks rather than vague intentions increases productivity by approximately 75%. This evening practice alone can reclaim several hours of otherwise wasted time each week. Implementing these changes requires incremental steps, not overnight revolution. Begin by securing just 30 minutes each evening for your highest leverage activity. Once this becomes habitual, expand gradually. The goal is sustainable transformation, not temporary enthusiasm that quickly fades. Let me address what you're likely feeling right now. A mixture of inspiration and resistance. You recognize the potential of reclaiming your evenings, yet something inside resists the change. This resistance isn't weakness, it's a natural response to pattern disruption that everyone experiences. Understanding and overcoming this resistance is crucial for transformation. The psychology of habit change reveals why evening routines are particularly challenging to modify. By day's end, your willpower is depleted, making the path of least resistance nearly irresistible. Your brain, designed to conserve energy, naturally gravitates toward familiar patterns that require minimal effort. This explains why you can sincerely intend to use your evening productively, then find yourself scrolling through social media without consciously deciding to do so. Let's confront the most common excuses directly. I'm too tired after work. Typically masks ineffective energy management, not actual physical exhaustion. The solution isn't abandoning evening productivity, but strategic energy renewal. A 20-minute nap, brief exercise, or changing environments can reset your energy levels completely. I deserve to relax frames productive activities as punishment rather than opportunity. The most fulfilled individuals discover that purposeful activities provide deeper satisfaction than passive consumption. I'll start tomorrow is perhaps the most dangerous excuse because it feels reasonable, but exceptional achievers understand that postponed discipline rarely arrives. The time to begin is always now, even imperfectly. My family needs me is valid, yet often misapplied. The truth is that modeling purposeful living for your family while involving them in your growth activities creates a more powerful legacy than constant availability without personal development. Accountability transforms intention into action. Research shows that commitment devices, external structures that hold you to your decisions, increase follow-through by over 300%. Find someone who will ask difficult questions about your evening choices. Schedule check-ins where you must report your progress. Make public declarations about your intended changes. These external accountability mechanisms bypass willpower limitations entirely. Consistency requires ongoing motivation, not just initial enthusiasm. Create visual reminders of your goals where you'll see them each evening. Develop a compelling why that connects evening activities to your deepest values. Track your progress visually to witness accumulating results. Celebrate small wins rather than focusing only on the distance remaining. These motivation strategies sustain momentum when initial excitement fades. Remember that resistance never fully disappears. It simply becomes easier to recognize and override. Even after years of productive evening routines, you'll still encounter nights when default patterns beckon. The difference isn't the absence of resistance, but your prepared response to it. Have predetermined strategies for these moments. A specific phrase you repeat, a 1-minute activity that breaks the pattern, or environmental triggers that automatically redirect your behavior. Your evening routine will ultimately be built one decision at a time, often against internal resistance. Each choice to override immediate comfort for long-term growth strengthens your capacity to make similar choices in the future. This compound effect applies not just to the skills you build, but to your decision-making power itself. Few principles are more powerful than compounding, yet our minds struggle to grasp its true impact. Let me illustrate how small evening decisions accumulate into life-altering outcomes over time. Consider two individuals with identical talents, education, and professional circumstances. The only difference is how they spend their evenings. The first dedicates just 1 hour each weeknight to deliberate skill development and strategic thinking. The second spends that same hour on entertainment. After 1 month, the difference is barely perceptible. After 1 year, there's a noticeable gap in their capabilities and opportunities. Examine the situation after 5 years. The first individual has invested over 1,250 hours in targeted growth, equivalent to working a full-time job for 7 additional months. They've developed expertise that makes them exceptionally valuable in their field. They've created assets that generate passive income. They've built relationships with mentors and collaborators that open doors to opportunities others never see. Meanwhile, the second person remains essentially unchanged, wondering why their circumstances haven't improved despite their talents. This isn't theoretical. I've witnessed countless transformations through evening discipline. A teacher who used evenings to create educational resources now reaches millions globally through her own company. An accountant who dedicated evenings to learning programming automated his entire department and became the youngest executive in his company's history. A single parent who used 1 hour evening blocks to write completed a book that created speaking opportunities that transformed her financial situation. What's particularly fascinating about the compound effect is how it creates breakthrough moments that appear sudden to outside observers. These overnight successes are actually the result of consistent evening investments that accumulate silently until reaching critical mass. The aspiring entrepreneur who studies business principles each evening for 3 years suddenly launches a venture that seems to succeed immediately. The professional who practices presentations in empty living rooms for hundreds of evenings suddenly delivers a conference keynote that launches their thought leadership. These breakthroughs aren't lucky breaks. They're the inevitable result of compound evening investments. The true power of evening discipline reveals itself in what I call opportunity readiness. When remarkable chances emerge, as they inevitably do, only those who have developed their skills, knowledge, and mindset through consistent evening practice are positioned to seize them. The unprepared majority watches these opportunities pass by, often not even recognizing them as significant. Your evening routine doesn't just build skills, it develops the perceptual awareness to recognize valuable opportunities invisible to others. Consider too how evening consistency creates compound advantages during disruption. When industries transform, technologies shift, or economic conditions change, those with diverse capabilities developed through evening learning adapt quickly, while others struggle to remain relevant. The professional who invested evenings in understanding emerging trends navigates the chaos confidently. The employee who develops secondary skills during evening hours discovers new applications for their capabilities. Evening discipline doesn't just accelerate success in stable times, it creates resilience during turbulent ones. The mathematical reality is staggering. 1 hour of focused evening investment yields 260 hours annually, enough to achieve beginning proficiency in a language, create a small business, write a book, or develop valuable technical skills. 2 hours daily compounds to 520 hours, equivalent to 13 full work weeks of additional productive time each year. Even 30 minutes daily accumulates to 130 hours, more than enough to transform your knowledge, skills, or circumstances in specific areas. Imagine your life 1 year from today if you reclaim your evenings. What skills would you possess? What projects would you have completed? What opportunities would have emerged from your consistent investment? Now, extend that vision to 5 years. The difference between your current trajectory and what's possible with intentional evenings isn't just significant, it's transformational. This compound growth occurs in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Skills develop exponentially rather than linearly once you reach competency thresholds. Knowledge builds upon itself as your mental models become more sophisticated. Network connections create unexpected opportunities that accelerate your progress. The initial years of evening discipline create the foundation, but the later years deliver exponential returns that can compress decades of achievement into condensed time frame. Perhaps most importantly, this compound effect transforms not just your circumstances, but your identity. Each productive evening reinforces your self-concept as someone who creates rather than merely consumes, who acts with purpose rather than drifting with circumstance. This identity shift creates a powerful feedback loop where disciplined choices become not acts of willpower, but natural expressions of who you've become. The evening hours you'll experience today, this week, this month, are not isolated periods. They are the building blocks of your future self. The question isn't whether compounding will work in your life, it's whether it will work for you or against you. Your life is ultimately shaped by the small decisions you make when no one is watching. The evening hours, those precious moments between work and sleep, represent your greatest opportunity to determine who you'll become rather than simply reacting to what you've experienced. Close your eyes for a moment and visualize yourself 1 year from today. If you continue your current evening routine unchanged, see your circumstances, your capabilities, your opportunities, your sense of purpose and fulfillment. Now shift that vision. See yourself 1 year from today if you reclaim those same hours for intentional growth and creation. Notice the dramatic contrast, not just in your external results, but in how you feel about yourself and your future. What makes evening choices so profound is that they represent pure freedom. The rare moments when external demands recede and your authentic priorities can emerge. These hours reveal the truth about what you value most. When you consistently choose growth during these periods of freedom, you're making the ultimate statement about who you intend to become. This isn't just about productivity. It's about personal integrity, about bringing your actions into alignment with your deepest aspiration. Consider the cumulative psychological impact of how you use your evenings. Each night presents a simple but significant choice. Will you invest in your future or merely entertain your present self? Each time you choose investment over entertainment, you build not just skills but self-trust. You prove to yourself that you're capable of delaying gratification for greater rewards. This self-trust becomes an unshakable foundation for every other aspect of achievement. The most successful individuals I've worked with share a common perspective on evening time. They view it not as the exhausted remainder of today, but as the energizing foundation of tomorrow. They understand that evening hours aren't just about recovering from the day's challenges, but preparing for tomorrow's opportunities. This subtle shift in viewpoint from seeing evenings as an ending to recognizing them as a beginning transforms how you approach these critical hours. The most powerful evening routine isn't necessarily the most ambitious one. It's the one you'll actually maintain through seasons of challenge, change, and competing priorities. Start with small, sustainable changes rather than dramatic overhauls that quickly collapse. Protect just 30 minutes initially. Build confidence through consistency rather than attempting perfection. Even one productive evening per week represents progress toward your potential that most people never make. Remember too that your evening routine will evolve as your circumstances and goals change. The entrepreneur launching a business allocates evening hours differently than the parent of young children or the professional pursuing advanced education. The constant isn't the specific activities, but the underlying principle of intentionality. Conscious choice rather than unconscious drift. The gap between those two visions is entirely within your control. It doesn't require exceptional talent, fortunate circumstances, or even significant sacrifice. It simply requires redirecting hours you already possess toward activities aligned with your deepest values and highest aspirations. Tonight represents your first opportunity to begin this transformation. Not next week when you're less busy, not next month when circumstances might be more favorable. Tonight, begin with just 30 minutes dedicated to your most important goal. Tomorrow, do it again. Small beginnings consistently maintained create unstoppable momentum. I challenge you to make a specific commitment right now. Identify one evening activity that moves you toward your most important goal and the exact time block you protect for it. Share this commitment with someone who will hold you accountable. Then honor that commitment, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's difficult. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your habitual behaviors. No area offers greater leverage for transformation than your evening routine. While others see complex solutions to achievement and fulfillment, you now possess insight into one of life's great secrets. Greatness is built in the moments most people waste. Your evening hours are the untapped gold mine of human potential, waiting for someone wise enough to claim their value. If there's one message I want to implant in your consciousness today, it's this: you are always just one evening away from a better trajectory. One evening of focused learning. One evening of strategic planning. One evening of meaningful creation. One evening that sets the pattern for all that follow. The decision to change your evening doesn't require waiting for perfect circumstances or extraordinary motivation. It simply requires deciding that tonight matters more than you've previously acknowledged. Remember this fundamental truth: your mornings show you who you are, but your evenings show you who you're becoming. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today, in the quiet hours, when instant gratification competes with delayed significance. Choose significance. Choose growth. Choose to use your evenings as the gateway to the extraordinary future that awaits those with the wisdom to invest in themselves when others merely spend their time. The person you'll be 5 years from now is being built this evening, one choice at a time. Make those choices wisely, for they are silently shaping your destiny.